Meet Rakesh Patel, a Gujarati Indian man who has spent nearly about 17 years in jail in the United States. Convicted in serious crime and serving a long sentence, he is now fighting a very different battle. Not for release, not for parole, but for the right to keep a sacred book with him. Ladies and gentlemen, Rakesh says that he is a devotee of Lord Krishna, somebody who turned towards spirituality during this time of prison. And the book at the center of this controversy is the famous Bhagavad Gita. For him, it is not just a religious text, it's a guide to discipline, mental strength, inner peace, specifically in a harsh environment of a jail. But according to his complaint, prison authorities are not allowing him to keep the Gita. The reason given by prison's review committee, it is unusual. They claim the book is written in a language or style that staff cannot easily understand, raising concern about its content here. Rakesh Patel is now challenging this particular thing in the court. Well, his argument is simple but powerful. If Muslim prisoners are allowed to keep Quran and Christian prisoners are keeping Bible, then why isn't Hindu inmate being denied the same right? He says that this is not just unfair, this is violation of religious freedom. Now, under the US Constitution, if you know, prisoners, they still have certain basic rights, including the right to practice their religion. Now, this includes prayers, meditation, access to religious text. Court in the past, they have also referred to protection under law like Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act here, which by the way prevents the authorities from placing unnecessary restrictions on religious practices of the inmates. Well, this particular case has been filed in a federal court in Florida and it names senior officials including Ricky Dixon. So far, there has been no official public response from the authorities though, but this case, it is now under judicial review and it could set an important precedent. In fact, there is also a larger backdrop to this issue. The Florida Department of Correction, they have been known for strict control over reading material. In fact, in the past, thousands of books have repeatedly been restricted or banned for the inmates, often citing security and content concern. And this raises question about how decisions are really made and whether they affect different communities equally or not. But this particular story, it has also a darker past. Rakesh Patel, he was convicted in 2009 incident at a liquor store in Florida. The victim was also of Gujarati origin. Investigations and court proceedings, they concluded that the act, it was deliberate. The shooting act. Well, he had also threatened the victim before the whole incident and later tried to defend himself by claiming mental illness. But medical experts rejected that particular claim. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison in 2013. During the trial period also, he didn't want to live, but he survived. Since then, he had remained very secluded, very positive, and he is expected to serve his sentence until about 2034 with limited chances of early release due to the severity of the crime. However, today, his fight is no longer about the past crime. It's about how he lives his present life inside a prison. Like many inmates, he claims spirituality has become a coping mechanism for him. Well, a way to deal with isolation, regret, and mental stress. And this raises a deeper question here. What role does religion play inside a prison? Now, for many inmates, faith becomes a source of reform, discipline, and emotional survival. Denying access to religious text, it can therefore become more than just a policy decision. It can sometimes be a question of rights and authority.